It was a really, really bad day for a fire. Hot, windy. During the summer months, my wife, Linda, was always very vigilant about watching social media to see if there were any fire alerts. And that day she came out and said that a fire had started on Karsten Road.
Well, oh yeah, we've been watching it. Yeah, and Carter Road is under advisement. I heard Karsten's Road and 140, so that's a little farther. Yeah, well that's where it is, but it's coming this direction.
There's somebody sitting
I don't know,
because people are.
crazy. And we don't right now. We don't have insurance on our house.
Oh dear
I
God.
know, I know.
You know,
We couldn't. They canceled us, and we hadn't picked anything up yet because it was too expensive. I don't know. They're not going to let it come through here.
Karsten Road is just north of us, Mid-Pines area, and definitely a red flag because we had had a fire a few years ago called the Karsten Fire that came up to the north end of Carter Ranch, spilled over a little bit, but then went down the backside of Buckingham Mountain to the east of us. So we were lucky that time. Whenever we hear that there's a fire in the area, we always go outside and look for the smoke. And so I went out in the field in front of the house and barn, and there was a column of smoke coming up to the north of us. Send Linda out of here. Yeah.
Steve's still out.
Yeah, he must be. Wind. I need to pull that. I knew that the situation was serious, but I felt that I had cleared and gotten the property to a point where it was very, very defensible. And so we watched, and the column grew, and it became stronger and stronger. And at that point, I felt that it was important that Linda get out of here.
All right, we're here at Mamu's house. Fire is closing in on the other side of the mountain up by Leslie's house. We're getting ready. We got the cars packed up. We're packing them up now. We're gonna roll.
She started to pack a few things, and I was joined by my brother Mike. We watched, started making some tentative plans to move stuff around, but still felt that we had some time. But at that point, I saw some smoke coming from behind us, and I stepped around the barn, and everything to the east of us was on fire. I got a fire over here. I have a fire. Linda was preparing stuff to evacuate, but when she looked out the windows on the east side of the house, everything was on fire. So she just ran, jumped in the car, and drove out through the fire and smoke. Everyone else that was out in front with me at the barn also evacuated, except for my brother Mike and I.
I want to see this. It's right over here. Oh man. Cop! Cop! Thistles, we got Joanne and her son, daughter. Where's Carter?
Chuck.
I think Mike Carter might be down there. Ask Linda. Look at that.
Oh, it's right over the house.
I had to drive through the flames.
Where's Chuck?
He won't come? Chuck won't come?
This is your son, Steve. I'm glad you guys got out.
I'm pretty clear.
Glad you got
We
out.
had to just let the
I get to
horses
see
go.
him.
I left and went down to the house to try to move vehicles and do what I could do down at the house. Before I left, the fire had started on Chuck's split rail fence, and the helicopter came. I tried to get the helicopter to make a drop on Chuck's house, and he missed. He got a little too low. He got between his house and my house.
There's nothing you can do about it. No, listen.
Jesse!
She'll be fine. One of her cows.
Where the hell is Mike? Does anybody know where?
We got to go right now. I hope Chuck is smart enough.
A spot fire had exploded and burnt everything around the house. I thought I was in pretty good shape. I felt that the place was definitely defendable. Oh, shit.
Watch out, Carter. Carter, move over a little bit.
I looked up the hill towards my mother's place, and I saw the back porch was on fire. And within 20, 30 minutes, that house was on the ground, had burned. One of the original houses on the ranch that my grandfather built and I grew up in, all the memories are gone, all the physical memories. Everything was destroyed. Very ironic because that house had turned 100 years old this summer. And we had planned a family reunion, which was scheduled for the next day. We had a lot of family members that came from all over the country to join us. And we ended up getting together for a short visit at my cousin Trent's. Not so much a celebration, but a mourning of what had passed.
Right through here.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Let's go.
Look low. Just look really low. You can't miss it. It's where that is. Right? The flame's right here. Look,
I see it.
down, right here in front of your dad.
Oh my gosh, look at it now. Oh no. No, look at it. Look at it.
What?
Oh my god.
What? Oh, Mom, don't come over here. I don't want to come.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Literally, fire started raining out of the sky. The main fire was spewing spot fires everywhere. And I started to pick up a few of those fires in the yard. The wind, the main fire became so intense, it created its own wind. And it started sucking everything towards the north. And when the wind kicked up like that, every fire I put out would just come straight back. And at that point, I was starting to feel threatened. I noticed a CDF fire truck was coming down our driveway. I ran out in front and started waving and hollering for them to come in. They stopped and sat there for a little while and then backed out and went down to the end of the driveway and spent 15-20 minutes trimming some small trees around Mike's metal shed. In the meantime, I lost control of the fire. The smoke got so thick at times that I could hardly breathe. And it popped into my mind about people passing out from smoke inhalation. So I would run into the house and get a few breaths of air and then back out into the yard.
We'll be back for a century. No.
We go right around this.
Oh.
Oh yeah, here, look at this. This is.
Oh.
Looks like it's gone through the whole Carter Valley here. That looks like Mount Buckingham right there. It's gone to the far end of it. Wow. There's the plains. Sad day, guys.
I noticed an ember had landed on the corner of the front deck of the house and was burning. I had the hose, I had water. I put it out, thought it was out, went out to tackle the other fires in the yard. Came back, it was burning again. put water on it, it went out. And then with the wind, it kicked right back up. The power went out. I went to the back of the house to fire the generator, got everything hooked up, came back around, and still no water. So I went back, checked the generator, and everything seemed to be okay. But at that point, I was in panic. So I went back around front, started grabbing water from anywhere I could find, dog bowls, toilet, even bottled water. But with that wind, there was nothing I could do. I knew at that point I was going to lose the house. So I had to make a decision of what to save. We had both cats inside, upstairs, and the dogs were in the bedroom downstairs. I knew I didn't have much time after seeing Mom's house burn in 20, 30 minutes. So no time to crate the cats. I just had to open the door and let the poor things go with the hope that they would survive. I went downstairs, got the dogs, took them out to the barn where we had the Land Cruiser parked, and put them in that and drove it into the burnt field where I knew it was relatively safe. Then I came back and tried to get the pickup. Went to the back of the house. The pickup was sitting next to a pile of wood that was burning, and literally the door was melting. So I couldn't get in the driver's side. Jumped in the passenger side, threw the key in, threw it in reverse. As it started backing up, I jumped into the driver's side and took the truck into the field with the Land Cruiser. I got the dogs into the truck, rolled the windows up, turned the air conditioning on, and everything was burning. Mom's house, the barn started burning. Everything around me was on fire and smoke. You couldn't see anything. I didn't want to try to leave because I didn't know what was going on down the road. So I sat there with the dogs for hours and watched Mom's house burn, our house burn, the barn burn. Everything around me burned. Even rolling the windows down for a few seconds, it was so hot out there that you couldn't tolerate it. If I hadn't gotten the truck out and been able to have a place to get inside, I think things would have been a little bit different as far as the ending. But in the meantime, my brother Mike had gone to his house, and I didn't know what was going on down there. I knew he was trying to save it, and I couldn't leave the truck. I had the dogs, so we just sat there and waited and watched.
I thought I had a 5,000 gallon tank that was gravity flow water, but when I went to turn the faucet on, it turned out that my valve in the orchard had burned off, and it was pouring out. Water was pouring out of my tank, and so luckily the gophers had buried the valve, the main valve, and it didn't burn, so I was able to dig it out and shut the valve down as much as I could, but I only had a couple 100 gallons of water left in the tank. So my faucet, which was about 50 feet from the house, was just dribbling water. So I had 2 1-gallon plastic buckets, and I would put one under the faucet and run up and throw water on the deck, which was kept catching on fire in different spots. And then I'd run back, and there'd only be about a half gallon in the bucket that I would go back to get. And I'd run up and throw it on either the deck or the leaves under the deck, which were burning. And then it caught the eucalyptus tree beside the deck and was burning up it. So I was throwing water up on the tree. Luckily, it didn't get into the leaves, but it burned the trunk all the way to the top. And then it started burning under my deck and caught the main beams under there on fire. So I had to pull boards off of the deck to get to it, because I knew if the big timbers got going good, I'd never put it out. So I tore some of the boards off and started putting water under the deck. And it was, wind was probably 50 to 60 miles an hour coming from every direction. The fire would come from one side of the house, rush towards the house, and then it would come from the other side. And the smoke was really dense. And luckily I had a N95 mask that I was wearing. Otherwise I probably would have passed out. A couple times I almost passed out. But it was pretty tough for about 4 or 5 hours. And then as it got into the evening time and got dark, I had to stay outside because it was still burning all around the house. The split rail fences were all on fire. I had about 6 cords of wood above the house stacked. They were all on fire, and they burned for about 3 days. So I sat outside at night, watching the fire and make sure there was no hot sparks get on the house. And the first night, the fire went up Zimmerman's Saddle, and then it just went, the flames were probably 100, maybe 200 feet high, and it went from Zimmerman Mountain to Triangle Road in less than 15 minutes, and it was just taking out houses all the way. You could hear the propane tanks exploding and stuff. And I think one of the hardest things for me was when I was running back and forth with buckets of water, Chuck's propane tank blew up, and as soon as it started burning and I could hear it, I could see the flames shooting 50 feet in the air and making a huge roar, and it would do that about every 15 minutes, and it did it clear into the night. But the first time it did it, I knew his house was gone, and it broke my heart. It was so bad, but anyway, so I stayed up for 3 nights watching the hot spots. I finally had to start mopping up the trees and stuff that were close to the house and that were burning. The railroad ties in the flower bed just kept burning, and so I took the little bit of water I had left, and I would take a shovel and mop up the hot spots that were close. Couple of big trees, a couple of standing dead cedar trees that were burning on the tops. I had to get those out, and so I worked doing that for 2 or 3 days, and then after that, there was nobody around. I hadn't seen anybody. I wasn't sure anybody was even alive around the country. I felt like I was the only person still survived. And so after I felt comfortable leaving the house, I took a walk, and it was pretty heart-wrenching because I hadn't seen the devastation of all the other houses and what had happened. I had spent so much time staying close to the house. And when I walked around and saw that Chuck's house was gone, Mother's house was gone, my rental was gone, and pretty much all the houses from that house up, from Chuck's house up the mountain were gone. and I felt like I was in a bomb zone. So then I finally felt comfortable enough to leave and hike over to the neighbor's house, who I knew was off the grid, but I knew he had phone reception. So I hiked over to his house, and he was really nice. He gave me some food and stuff to drink, and let me make some phone calls to let people know that I was okay, and that everything was all right. And so from then I went back, and for a few days there was very few people around. I was running out of water. The tank was pretty much empty. There was a CAL FIRE guy came up. I ran into him when I was out on the road, and I asked him if they could send a water truck up and put water in my tank for the cows. And so they called a local kid that was a water truck driver, and they were nice enough to bring me a load of water for the cows in my tank. And so I had water again, and then there was a crew that came in that were part of insurance, some kind of insurance company, and the guy in charge came down and found me at the house and was wondering why I was still there, and I was the only one around. And I told him I'd stayed, and he said, "Do you have access to food or anything?" And I said, "No." And all my stuff had thawed out, and I had eaten anything that was good. And he was nice enough. He goes, "Well, I'm the only one that can get in and out of here." And so he said, I'll try to bring you some food tomorrow. And then he brought me a bunch of groceries and stuff, which really helped for the next week or so. So I was real happy about that, because he was the only one that was able to get in and out. If I left, I couldn't get back. So, but yeah, it was pretty brutal, the whole experience. It was a miracle that I saved the house as many times as it caught on fire on the deck and underneath. But I lost the well house, which I had put it out. It started on fire like half dozen times, and I put it out, and I focused on the house for just a little longer than I had been. And the well house, I looked around, the well house was completely involved. I lost my pickup, all my chainsaws, all my tools. They were all in a small building out near the driveway. And Carol lost her tricked out Volkswagen van, and a lot of the stuff as it was burning was exploding. So it was like I was in a war zone. Just one explosion after another between all my gas jugs that were full of gas, and chainsaws that were full of gas, weed eaters and pole saws, and vehicles that were full of gas. It was just like one explosion right after another the whole time I was trying to keep the house from burning. One time the wind came, I had some Scotch broom brush close to one of the sides of the house, and a big gust of wind came and it caught on fire, and it came sweeping right towards the house, and I thought there was no way I was gonna put it out. And just as it got up to the flower bed, the wind kind of switched and went the other way, and it kind of slowed down, and I was able to put the hot areas out right up against the deck. I was missing all my cows for several days and thought they had burned because they were in the back where it's burned really hot, and I didn't go and look for them because I was too busy around the house trying to keep things from burning. And finally that neighbor that I went over to see that is off the grid that I used his phone. He said that he had a call from sheriff's department person that lived down by Triangle Road that they thought his cows were in their yard, and he said he knew it wasn't his, so he said told them it was probably mine. And so when I was over there, he told me about it, and he took me down on his four-wheeler to where the people live, and they weren't there. And so he was going to walk up his property line, and I was going to walk up the Carter Road side looking for him, and I couldn't find any sign of him. And I got up about halfway, and there they all were in the only unburned spot in the area. And it took me pretty much all day to try to get them back up here. I had to coax them back a little at a time. And some CAL FIRE guys came by and they kind of helped me. But eventually I got them all the way back up to the front corral or the front field and got them all back in. So I was really lucky that they didn't burn because they were in the hottest area of the whole fire.
We spent over a week at my cousin Trent's in town waiting for word that we could go back into our property. Prior to that, my cousin Joanne and her family did get in through one of the law enforcement people, and were able to take some video of all the destruction. And viewing that, it was pretty emotional, but nothing prepared us for getting in there and actually standing and seeing what was left. It was overwhelming.
Well, Carter Road, guys.
Start taking pictures of Carter Road.
This is going to be interesting. That bell was made in the 1700s.
Oh, this was Chuck's house. Chuck tried to put the fire out himself. Yep. Here's Chuck's house. What was?
Would you believe a bench last lived? Look at that.
This little pathway he built. Oh my gosh. This was Chuck's.
What's that round thing? Oh, that is mining stuff. See those wheels and stuff?
Yeah. Hey,
That's
be
from-
careful. This is nails sticking up, you guys. Yeah, I bet.
It was burning here, burning
Oh my God.
burning under
Oh. How did it get under here?
there. When I pulled these boards, I put it, like I said, I put a lot of them back. I had plywood on it and had that piece of plywood and it burned in. But
How did the fire get underneath though?
That's a good question.
Like an ember, because it was right up to there.
Yeah,
It's like an ember could
I
have.
had all these trees died last year, and I had them all cut and stacked. Just a whole. There was a big pile of firewood.
So the fire was like raging literally right there?
Right there. Oh my
It was.
God.
It came right through here like that. I mean, this
Can
thing's
you
bad.
imagine this? It's 4 feet from the house.
I had
Several months before the fire, our insurance company dropped our house insurance, and we were in the process of looking for insurance, something affordable, but just hadn't secured that yet. Thought we had a little bit of time. I just never imagined that this house could burn. So we're pretty much financially unable to rebuild. There's nothing left. And I can't find the cat. Been looking for Minnie and Big, but can't find them right now. Afraid they didn't make it. This is Mom's place. It's completely gone. So many good memories. After the fire, everything was a mess. Wherever the houses stood was just a mess of concrete and twisted metal, melted glass, and that all had to be cleaned up. And we had some cleanup crews come in, and they, with heavy equipment, scraped up all the debris, dumped it into trucks, and hauled it off to a toxic waste dump. The whole thing was bittersweet. It was good to get that cleaned up. It was so horrible looking, and but at the same time, it was sad to see all that you had worked and all your wealth and memories, physical memories, being hauled away, and it had to be done. The fire had stripped the vegetation off of all of the mountains around here, and some areas were there was nothing left. It looked like a lunar landscape, and winter was approaching, and very apprehensive about runoff from heavy rains, and the worst case scenario happened. We got caught in an El Nino pattern with atmospheric rivers, one after another, torrential downpours, and everything flash flooded, debris coming down, roads being washed out. We had snow, 3 to 4 feet of snow out of one storm that trapped us. It was terrifying. The stress from that winter was almost as bad as the fire, losing the house.